What is up, Eagles? Welcome back to another episode of The Bench Mob. I'm your host, Ian Lynch, and once again, I'm joined with...
Jake Henning.
All right, so we had a busy week last week. We wanted to save it for you guys with the trade deadline fastly approaching, so that's why we are having this episode. We are talking the winners and the losers. Teams were making moves, Jake. First off, for the winners, the Heat were able to make a huge move. I probably have them as the biggest winner for the trade deadline. They were able to bring in Victor Oladipo from the Rockets and a very great shooter from the King, whose name I can't pronounce, but if you want to, you can have a crack
That
at
would
it.
be Nemanja Bjelica.
Yep.
I think
Great
I got
job.
that right. We'll see.
I mean, sounds pretty close, but
Okay.
what do you think about the moves?
Yeah, I mean, Oladipo is a guy that they have coveted for about 2 or 3 years, a guy that they really wanted to bring to Miami, fits the culture, and he's been interested as well. He might have not been able to say, but, you know, he likes the competitiveness of Miami and all that they play with. So they were pushing hard to get him, but, the Rockets were a little bit unwilling to give him up because they wanted Duncan Robinson, but at the last minute, they needed something back because they knew he would have left in free agency. So they made a deal with Miami, a great deal for Miami, giving up Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and a pick. Great trade for the Heat. And Nemanja Bjelica, a bit of an underrated player in our league. He was a great shooter, great passer, had a great career with the Kings. And he's going to give a little bit of size and shooting, kind of what Kelly Olynyk did, but a little bit more IQ on the floor for the Heat. But the Heat made some really good trades, only giving really one rotation player in both of those deals, which was Kelly Olynyk. Avery Bradley really hasn't played the whole year, so I thought it was great trades for the Heat. They added some shooting, some defense, all around great day for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You talk about what the Heat gave up compared to other teams they made deals with. The Rockets, if you think about it, I know Harden wasn't involved at the trade deadline, but all this still goes back to him leaving earlier in the year. They practically gave up James Harden for Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and a couple second-round picks, which,
right,
if you look at that, that is great for the Heat. Up next, for winners, we had the Bulls. Walk us through why you thought the Bulls were a winner for this trade deadline.
Yeah, I think they were a bit of an underrated winner. They added a big man in Nikola Vucevic, who's just gotten better every single year. He's added shooting, his defense, passing, and they got a big man to play alongside Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen to really give them a boost. You know, this team was looking good. Zach LaVine was an all-star this year, breaking into his own, becoming a superstar, but he just needs a little bit of help. You know, he needs that push.
Mm-hmm.
He needs someone that can consistently score just like him. And I think that they're building something in Chicago, that they're working there, they want to make the playoffs, and I think that they're getting there, and this is a huge move to further push them towards the playoffs. So I think it was a great trade for the Bulls.
No, yeah, I agree. Like you mentioned, he's gotten better year after year. And the thing that really strikes me is a guy for his size and what he's able to do. You would think, oh, he's just like a post player, but no, he has the free ball. He is a great shooter, which, helps spread the floor for the Bulls, helps Zach LaVine out a little bit, gives him some more space to work around. So definitely a great move by them. Next up, we have our losers. You briefly mentioned the team that the Bulls traded with, the Magic. Why are they the losers in that trade?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that the Magic were in the playoffs last year or 2 years ago, where they were a good team and they had a couple players, Evan Fournier, obviously Nikola Vucevic, Terrence Ross, Aaron Gordon, who they also traded at the deadline. And on the trade deadline day, they unloaded all these players and really didn't get much back. I mean, a couple second-round picks in the trade for Fournier. They got Wendell Carter in the first for Nikola Vucevic, and I'm not sure what they got in the Aaron Gordon trade, but I think it was Gary Harris. But not really a good supply back for the Magic, who it seems like they're rebuilding again. They're starting all over where they had some of the core pieces of a playoff team, and you saw that from last year and 2 years ago. So it seems like they're just starting over, and it doesn't really make any sense. Nikola Vucevic was in his prime. Aaron Gordon is probably in his prime, as well as Evan Fournier. So I'm very curious to know what they're doing down there in Orlando. So I didn't think it was good moves for them. So that's why I have them as a loser.
No, yeah, for sure. The timing is definitely strange, like you mentioned, especially you mentioned their recent playoff success and what seemed like a pretty solid foundation for what most people thought they were trying to do down there. So I definitely agree that the timing is definitely odd. And yeah, like you mentioned, they just didn't get a lot back for what they were giving out. Granted, Fournier and Gordon, they've been all right. They're not superstars, I would say. So like, you probably wouldn't expect too much for them in return anyways, but compared to what they got, you would probably have expected a little more. So I definitely agree with the assessment of putting them as our losers. The other team that I was really surprised with, the Raptors. They had the opportunity to get rid of Kyle Lowry, which they didn't take. So what do you think the plan is there for him and the organization going forward? And what do you think was the workings of why they decided not to have a deal go through at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I heard they had a couple moves in place, maybe to LA, maybe to Miami. I heard a couple different teams that were interested, but they just didn't pull the trigger. And I think that was a bad move for them because Kyle Lowry's he's going to be a free agent this summer. He's free to sign with any team that he wants, and the Raptors could lose him for nothing, where they could have gotten a couple, a first and a couple good players for him. So, not necessarily that they're total losers for keeping him, but I think they're losers for not trading him away. And you also saw the deal for Gary Trent Jr., where they traded away Norman Powell. I think that was a bad move as well. Norman Powell was having his best year in the NBA. He was putting up, I think, 14, 15 points a game, a reliable scorer for them, and they just dealt him for really a backup point guard that was having a good year, but I don't think is going to be a superstar. So a couple questionable moves by the Raptors by not trading Lowry, trading Powell. So I think this one backfires on the Raptors, who aren't really looking too good in the East right now.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned them getting rid of Powell as well. I saw that move, and like you mentioned, this has been one of his better years with the team. So like once again, we're talking about the timing just seems odd with the moves that they're making, especially when you look at this roster. A lot of them, a few years ago, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, and like it's the same players. So it's like, what's going on internally that we're not seeing behind closed doors that is making them self-destruct? Because you talk about Powell was shipped, Lowry wants out. He's still there, but it's like, how do you play with someone that you know wants to leave? And that's definitely impacting the play on the court. And then you got Pascal. Like, who knows what they're going to do with him? They could decide to start talking moves for the future with him. So
yeah,
definitely weird with the moves they decided to make and the moves that they didn't, but should have. Like you mentioned, with now potentially they can get nothing in return for Lowry, which is definitely going to backfire for them, I feel.
Yeah.
Moving forward, like we do typically each week, we have Player of the Week and Rookie of the Week. Jake, once again, you're responsible for Rookie of the Week. So walk us through your pick.
Yeah, so I feel like we just keep talking about like the lottery picks of the most recent NBA draft, but I'm going to go with the guy who went first, Anthony Edwards. He's continued to get better every single game of the year, just becoming more of his own, getting more comfortable with scoring, building off guys like Cat and D'Lo, and he's been playing really well. He had 42 points recently in a game against the Suns. So I mean, for a rookie to score 40 points in a game is incredible. You see why he's a number one pick. He's actually had more than 20 points in 4 of his last 5 games. So he's become a consistent scorer for a team that it really isn't playing well right now. And so I think the future is looking very bright for Anthony Edwards, and especially for a T-Wolves team that really needs help right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like you mentioned, the 42 points. I mean, he's showing why he was the number one pick, because everyone was like, "Oh, is it going to be Lonzo or not Lonzo? Is it going to be LaMelo? Is it going to be Wiseman?" Like, they ended up going with him, and he's showing that they made the right choice. So definitely a great pick. Next up, we have Player of the Week. So I decided to go with Phoenix's Devin Booker. The last few games, he's put up 45, 21, 35. They're on a bit of a little streak right now, and he's a big reason for that with the numbers he's putting up. And then for the season, he's averaging 25 points, 4.1 rebounds, 4.5 assists. So he's getting it done offensively, and the Suns are looking pretty good, and he's a big reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're second in the East right now, and he's a big part of that, especially with Chris Paul, who's arguably in the MVP race right now. But Devin Booker, he's had a slow start to the year where he was really getting acclimated to an offense where he sometimes isn't the primary ball handler. But now he's starting to get into the offense. You see, he had the 45-point game last night or 2 nights ago. But Devin Booker is one of the most highly talented players in our league. Great shooter, great off-the-ball perimeter shooter. And I mean, he played incredibly well this past week. So got to give it to him.
For sure. Well, that concludes this week's episode. We'll see you guys next time.